Thank you very much for this interview. And I want to begin to know what kind of networks are needed in Mexico and Latin America. Today, in the first keynote talk, Vivek talked about the importance of 5G standalone.
hmm
What do you think about this?
Yeah, I mean, I think, we've seen a lot of good early progress in 5G in Latin America, but I think now we're talking about how we now take it to that next step, right? I mean, the majority of the deployments of 5G in Latin America right now have been 5G non-standalone, and what we're trying to shift to now is 5G standalone, where you can really get the true value of 5G. So we're starting to see some momentum. Brazil has launched 5G SA. Costa Rica with Liberty, as you saw in 2025, also launched 5G SA. So I think we need more momentum in this space, preparing the networks for the future and for the next wave of innovation. I think that's the next big step in front of Latin America.
You was working in 5G standalone with Telcel, I guess. I don't know how it's going.
A lot of discussions with not just Telcel, but with many different customers actually. So I think we're having so many discussions with customers across the region about how they can evolve their networks and prepare the networks for the next step. And that's on the radio access network, but also on the core is the key component. So this is really very active discussions right now with many customers. But I think this is in 2026 and 2027. We hope to see much more momentum. And why we talk about this and why we're so excited about it is we're really preparing the networks for all of these cool new use cases, differentiated connectivity, AI use cases. All of this only becomes real when you have 5G standalone networks. And that's what we're discussing with many customers right now.
Last week in Madrid, you talked about a lot of challenges that we have in Latin America as public policies, for example. I don't know which kind of recommendations you can make to improve these kind of public policies that we have now in the
Look,
region.
of course, look, we always say, and it's not just Latin America, it's everywhere, the foundation for building a 5G network and a high performing 5G network is spectrum, right? And I think, there's really great conversations that are happening in Latin America with, public officials and also with the CSPs and with ourselves. And in terms of my recommendation, I think that's the best thing you can do. Have open, good dialogue, good discussions, everybody sitting around the table, appreciating that if we can get 5G networks and high performing networks built in Latin America, it's good for everybody. It's good for societies, it's good for the economies, and having productive conversations where we can challenge each other and come up with solutions, I think that's the best discussion. I think some good discussions last week in Madrid.
Yeah.
This
And,
week, even, this week.
yeah.
I'm already a week ahead.
And also in Mexico, now is a discussion about the next auction,
Mm.
spectrum auction
Yep.
for 5G. And one idea is spectrum for private networks. What do you think about this idea to have a spectrum only for private networks? Do you think it's a good idea, or the strategy need to be that the carriers develop with the experience these networks?
Yeah, I mean, I think we could do both. Certainly, private networks is an opportunity, for enterprises and etc. So I think that has its place, and we actually see a lot of momentum in private networks across the globe. And certainly, there's opportunities there in Mexico as well, and looking at critical infrastructure and specific use cases. But certainly, I think the CSPs. There's certainly some important needs that need to be fulfilled in the short term, right? And we work with many of the customers in Mexico, as you know. So I think we need to do both, right? We need to make sure that we're having policy and spectrum in place to allow the CSPs really to accelerate and to offer the best possible service to consumers. But I do think private networks has a role to play as well in Mexico as well.
And the artificial intelligence is now
Exciting.
yes,
Yeah.
and it's a lot of things around it. But
Yes.
which is the main challenge in Latin America and Mexico with this technology?
I mean, I think the main thing is, and it's not just Latin America, but I think this only becomes real. If you think about AI, there's huge potential, right? But right now, AI is in the data centers, right? For AI really to be in the machines and in the robots and all the devices and all these use cases to become real, which is really the next phase, the cloud needs to be fully distributed, And then you need the mobile network basically to be the backbone, the thread that kind of connects that all together. And you need a high-performing real-time network to be able to run these AI use cases. So I think the challenge is, the potential is there in AI, and the appetite is there for sure. I think the main challenge is making sure we're preparing the networks to actually be able to facilitate those use cases. And that goes back to the same things you were talking about. It's policy, it's spectrum, it's 5G standalone. So I think the main focus for us is working with policymakers, working with our customers to make sure we're putting the foundation, putting the building blocks in place. And if we can do that, the AI use cases will come in the future as well.